Welcome to another episode of the DL. I am your host, Tyler Robertson, the CEO and founder of Diesel Laptops. This is the show where we talk about everything to do with the truck repair industry and the businesses that go along with it. Entrepreneurship, leadership, growing a business, marketing your business, all of those things. And I want to start out today by talking about a little quote that I got. This is someone that I follow on LinkedIn. They posted this. They're a new service manager at a new company, and they put a post up, and they said, and this is a sign they put up on all of her employees' computers that are their service writers that deal with their customers. And the quote was, the sign said, "If a customer comes to us asking for an update, we failed." And it's a really strong sentiment because that's really what it is in a service business. If customers are asking you what's going on, it means you failed to let them know what's going on, and they don't know, and they can't plan, and they can't go on with their day and do their things. So this episode is really basically taking care of your customers. And we're going to get into some stories here, but to do this, I brought in someone that's been on the show before. So Riley, our Director of Operations, welcome back on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So I'm going to tell a quick little story here first. When I first started selling these multi-brand diagnostic tools, and by this point we've sold, I don't know, 15, 20,000 of these things, whatever the number is. It's a big number. The very first one I sold got returned to me.
Yep.
Right? And I look at it, and there's probably some reasons that happened. I didn't know what I was selling. I wasn't supporting it. I wasn't communicating. There's a lot of reasons why. So let's just talk about a little bit of history, because you've been here since the beginning.
Yep.
So let's just walk people through a little bit of the history, because essentially what we have here in our company, and I think it's true when people look at any of their business, is people are buying some very expensive, sophisticated diagnostic tools, and the person buying it is oftentimes different than the person actually using it. And there's a lot of things going on here. So walk us through a little bit of the history of how we do our support and kind of what we've learned at this point.
Sure. So I guess we'll start back, and let's call it the early days, so 2015, 2016, right? So back then, we pretty much did the reverse of how we onboard customers now. So typically, if we were going to sell one of those dealer-level tools back then, we'd actually have the sales reps go out to the customer, and they would spend anywhere from an hour to 4 hours, sometimes even longer, hooking the tool up to their trucks, teaching them how to use it, having the customers use the tools, and they pretty much were onboarded before they even gave us any money. That was awesome, and the fact that customers were onboarded, but our reach was horrible. You know, if you looked at the sales team we had back then, whenever they had a full week of demos, they could touch a max of like 8 customers, and then all their time was gone. So sorry, go ahead.
You know, I was going to say, I just had the CEO of Kajali in yesterday, and he was talking about how they do it in Spain and how they do it in the UK and Europe. And it's that way you just described.
Yep.
He goes, we have these people, and they go out there, and I think he said they spend like 2 hours onboarding them after they buy it on site,
Yep.
showing them how to use it and do these things and whatnot. And I agree, that's a great thing for customers. I think customers appreciate it. But from the business side, how do we scale that, right? That was the rub we had was, man, the U.S. is a big place.
Yeah.
like there's some cities you could have 3 or 4 people in, more or less the entire country of 350 million people. So it was a challenge for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think, you know, looking past that point, we did that for about 2 years. You know, I don't know the exact dates, but then we made a huge change to how we sell things, right? And it kind of shook the way we could actually scale things. So our sales manager at the time said, you know, Tyler, you're going to think I'm crazy, but we are not going to see another customer in person ever again. And obviously there's exceptions, but his whole idea was, you know, his sales reps at that time could touch maybe 20 customers a day when they had to travel. How about we keep them inside? Let's come up with a 30-day money-back guarantee so customers can try it out, send it back if they don't like it. And that way we can touch anywhere from 60 to 80 customers a day. So our sales, you know, boomed at that point. Well, the problem we were left with is now we have all these sales coming through, but I don't think at that time we had many materials made to actually onboard the customers.
Well, not only that, but we didn't grow all our departments at the same time. So sales and production were growing like leaps and bounds.
Yep.
Tech support was not. I mean, there was a point there where literally 9 out of 10 phone calls to tech support went to voicemail.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure we didn't call them back either, or it would take days to call them back, which is probably even worse than not even calling them back, right? So, you know, I remember we were saying, hey, and we started to look at it, because now we're basically sending kits to people. We're saying, hey, try it if you don't like it, send it back in 30 days. They're not being onboarded. They're not getting their phone calls answered when they're calling tech support, so they're returning them.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, this isn't good. So we kind of had to migrate to the next phase, which was we need to train people on how to use these things.
Yeah, so I think that kind of opens up, the next door where we really took a hard look at what materials do we have online for customers. And I remember going out to some repair shops at that time and just hooking up to their trucks. The first step was just make a video of what the tool can do. So I remember going to the local shop with you, and I remember that was the first time I actually hooked to a truck, and like it clicked. I was like, oh my God, this is what we're selling. This is what it's used for. So super helpful for me. But I know as we started getting videos there, and we could show, hey, here's how you do a regen, and here's what you have to check for before you even do that. Do you have codes you have to clear first? Then we moved into, okay, well, now we have these random videos of us using it. How about we do like a welcome series to say, hey, here's an unboxing, here's how to set things up, how to navigate. So that was kind of the next iteration.
Yeah, and I think after that iteration, we then said, man, what we really need to do is have some hands-on training to teach people how to use TechSec. We started doing like the live webinars and that type of thing. And I thought it was insane. I was like, man, we do free online training, we have tech support, we do the online training's live and on demand. Like, why would somebody come to a class and spend the time and money to travel here to learn a piece of software when they can do it all remotely from the comfort? And I was shocked when we opened the first class and literally it filled up, the very first one. It blew my mind. But the interesting thing here is that created the door to what diesel training is starting to become, which is not just software, but all these other things we do. And software is almost the smallest piece of that whole diesel training environment now that we have.
Yeah, no, I think it's been awesome to see, just talk to training a little bit, seeing it scale from, we had our first class we were nervous about, we didn't know if we would fill seats, but now, and we have locations in, I want to say 6 or 7 states. We just have our newest one in Chicago that's about to open. So just seeing that and seeing customers actually gravitate to that. And I know you said the last trade show we were at, almost every person we talked to talked about a need for technician training.
Yep. Yeah, it's really becoming a problem out there. And as a side note, I just ran the numbers from the Department of Labor. 2020 was the first year we ever lost the number of diesel technicians actually employed.
Oh, wow.
It actually got back down to the 2015-16 level is where it went. So we lost like 20,000 diesel techs last year in our, which is compounding the problem. That's a whole other issue. But at the end of the day, I think, we said, hey, I think we're doing a pretty good job here. We're taking care of our customers. And then we learned this thing called Net Promoter Score Nps.
Yeah. So
why don't you talk a little bit about because people might not be familiar, they may have heard it. Why don't you explain what it is and how we measure things here at Diesel?
Sure, yeah. So before I jump into that, I want to touch on that quote you said. So the way we have our customer support department set up, it's not like traditional companies where I think when most people think customer support, they just think it's this department that'll handle any issue ever and they'll just get you where you need to be. Ours is set up in the way we're really set up to capture the voice of the customer, right? And essentially, in my eyes, if a customer makes it to customer support, something failed along the way. Either we didn't set good expectations, we didn't talk to the customers as much as we should have. So to start out, 2018, 2019, customer support was typically a reactive role where, okay, customers screaming mad, just want to talk to anyone, please talk to them, get them happy. They do an awesome job at that. Around 2020, we took a hard look at what we were actually doing, and we said we can't be reactive forever. We need to be proactive. So that's when NPS, we started doing that, and it's Net Promoter Score, and it's essentially a customer loyalty, feedback system. So all it is a little 3-question survey that we have. First thing we ask is, how would you rate us out of 5 stars? Sorry, out of 10 stars. What do you like about diesel laptops, and then what can we improve on? So when we first started, and sorry, one last thing, it's on a scale from -100 to +100. So if you send the survey out, everyone gives you a 0, you're at a -100. Then vice versa. 10s, you're 100. First time we sent the survey out, we were a 3. So
there's some harsh criticism in there.
Absolutely, yeah. It's I'll say it's very humbling. I'm typically involved in new products launching and look at all the great things we're doing. It's not fun being in that echo chamber of positivity, and you come out, people are saying, hey, if I see you, I'm going to beat you up in the street, right? I hate you, go out of business.
Yeah.
I've had to level myself because I think 99% of our customers are happy with the tools. We have tens of thousands of these things out, not returned, people are happy. There's always that subset that's, not going to enjoy what you do.
Yeah, I think diagnostic tools are a lot like cars or anything people use every day. Right? I love my car until it breaks down. Now it's a piece of junk. I'm never buying that brand again. They're horrible. forget about the 100,000 miles it got me through. It's now a problem, right? And TV's the same way. I bought a TV, it was great, and then it stopped working. I'm like, what a piece of junk.
Yep.
I've only owned this for 18 months, and now it stopped working. Like, I got ripped off. I'm never buying their brand again. They're horrible. So, and it's like that with diagnostics too. And it's not that we're horrible, the tool's horrible. There's a lot of variables there, right?
Absolutely.
It could be the truck. It could be something was done to it. It could be the technician. It could be the hardware. They're connecting the software. There's 1,000 variables that get thrown into that whole thing. And I think that's that first net promoter score for a lot of people here was the first chance people had to say, oh, wow, we have unhappy customers, because revenue is just doubling and just skyrocketing, right? So, and we weren't asking.
Yep.
And for me, it was great when I was small, because I got to talk to every customer. I was tech support. I was sales. I was doing those things. You were there too. You got to hear all the things that you were great at and all the things you sucked at. Mm-hmm. And I think we lost touch of that for a couple of years, because we were just blowing and going and just worrying about sales and marketing and not worrying about current customers. Mm-hmm. That's really what happened there. So we started at a 3, right? And then kind of talk about the evolution of how that's been going.
Yeah, sure. So first survey, January 2020, we had a 3. Everyone's a little bit sad after that. But, we kept surveying, we kept collecting data. And, we really started to have customer support almost, police our policies and procedures. So for any customer that fills out that survey and isn't happy, something failed somewhere. So 20% of customer support's time is talking to the customers, getting them happy, getting resolved, and getting them to be a promoter. The other 80% is actually root causing, okay, what happened? Where's the failure? What training do we need to have internally? What process is broken? So that's where we're at now. So went from a 3. We ended 2020 with an average of 11 for the year, which is still, they say if you're above a negative, you're doing all right.
Yeah.
But for us, an 11 is not good enough. So go into 2021, we're steady fixing processes. We're getting better training. One big thing we do is if we see a sales rep fail or set wrong expectations, we have that sales rep call back, right, and apologize. That's the least you can do, and that's the best way to learn. When you have to go back to that customer and get yelled at, you learn pretty quick, hey, I better take my time with this stuff. So we've been on that track, and for 2021, so far we're averaging about a 33, which is an insane growth from 2020. And then actually for November when we surveyed, we're actually at a 66 for the month. So things are continuously getting better. I don't think we'll ever be at 100, just because you can't please everyone, right? So before this podcast, was looking through some of the results, and it goes back and forth. You'll get to 10 surveys who say, what do you like about it? Oh, you guys are amazing. You've changed the industry. This is awesome. Then you get to the ones saying, I hate you. Go out of business. The best thing you could do. So it's having to level yourself and saying, we're doing the right things, and I think it's going to be a learning curve still, but there's always going to be that subset that's just not happy. Yeah.
So I think that's important. In every business, there's people that aren't happy. And I can tell you, as a service manager before, I've had to fire customers, and it sucks to lose revenue, but sometimes it feels really good. Like, this guy's a problem, or customer's a problem. I just don't need that in my life or my employee's life. And I think when it really goes back to is, again, you're buying an advanced diagnostic tool. These are not simple to explain things, and we're bringing in a lot of salespeople that have never sold them before. They don't know diagnostic tools. They don't know trucks, right? And this is their first sales job. And by the way, we sell every diagnostic tool that exists.
Yep.
So go help sell this stuff. It's a monumental challenge for a lot of these salespeople, and it's usually their first professional sales job. I think people will be surprised if they walk through a sales department. The average age down there is pretty young, right? And they do a tremendous job. But I think it goes back to, there's just a lot to learn. I mean, I know we have our Slack channel. It's crazy. I'm learning stuff every day. Salespeople are learning stuff every day. It's just a big world that we're all trying to figure out as we go through this. And I think you hit the key point. It really starts with the salesperson, setting the expectations for the customer. And I know one of the lines, I've been saying to a lot of customers is like, look, again, you're buying this. You're going to give it to someone else in your organization to use.
Yep.
We need to, if you don't do 2 things, I guarantee you it'll fail and you'll be upset and you'll want to return this to me.
Yep.
If you don't do training and you don't call in tech support when you have a problem, like if you don't do those things, this is going to epically fail. If you do those, I can promise you your chances of success and the efficiencies this tool is going to bring you are monumental in your organization. Is it similar stuff you guys have seen down there as well as you guys have done these things?
Absolutely. So I'll say the #1 negative score that we get is people saying the tool does not work.
Yep.
Right. And My favorite one is I have a Texa kit, Texa truck kit. I'm trying to regen a Cummins and it will not work.
Yep.
We all know that it will work, right? Those are honestly the easiest ones we get because we know exactly what happened. Customer got the tool. We said, please take our training. Please call tech support. Please talk to us. Use our resources. And they don't. They hook up to the truck. They try to use it. Can't get it to work. They say, okay, it's a piece of junk. Really what we're seeing is our most unhappy customers are ones who are not taking the training or calling tech support. So that kind of opened the door to our new onboarding that we're trying. So not a huge fan of the name. It's another diesel whatever. But
just put diesel in front of it and it's a thing. Right?
Yeah, so diesel onboarding is what we're trying to go with. So we kept looking at the data and we kept seeing that customers were saying the tools aren't working, but they really are once we talk to them. We're also seeing some feedback of customers saying, hey, look, I talked to your sales guy every single day for a month. I paid you, and now I can't talk to him again, right? I feel abandoned. So we thought, okay, that's fair enough criticism, right? 'Cause you have to think the sales guys, they got to keep selling for us to stay open. But we need to be there to support these customers after. We have all these resources. I think there's like 50 resources total we give them, but it's so hard to get customers to understand everything they have before they get the tool. So what we've been trying is for 4 weeks after you buy a Texa or a jaw test, a dealer level tool, that's what we're starting with. We're gonna call you, we're gonna walk you through, okay, first, did you get everything? Have you unboxed it? Have you looked at it? Did you see any of the emails we sent with training links? Have you taken training? Have you called us? So cool. From there, we'll try to schedule, for the next week, let's talk to you again after you've hooked to a truck. Then we go through, okay, Mr. Customer, you've hooked to a truck, have any issues? Have you taken the training and all that? So we're still in the pilot phases, and I'll say the first pilot we did was a little bit of a fail.
Not a little bit, epic fail.
It was bad.
Yeah.
So we ended up talking to, I want to say it was 40 customers around that. I think we got 10% to talk to us, so 4 people out of this whole thing to talk to us every week. We went back and we looked and we said, okay, well, whenever we did this pilot, we called every customer on Monday morning to try to set up a meeting. Most of them didn't answer, and we said, okay, we'll just call next week, right? So we didn't play it right. We played to what worked for us and not what worked for the customer, which again is, you can't do that. It doesn't matter what we want, the customer's king, right? So first pilot went on, we didn't get good results. We have a team together, we meet on this, and it was kind of like, well, it doesn't seem like customers really care about this. Maybe this isn't the right avenue. And we said, well, let's do one more pilot. Let's try this a little bit different. Let's actually call the customers and schedule a time that works for them, and see what results we get. And we went from 10% answering in the first pilot to now I think we ended with 60 or 70% of customers talked to us all 4 weeks. We also saw that all of those customers rated us 5 stars at the end, and all of those customers took training and talked to tech support.
Yeah.
It's a small sample size, but we're still needing to get more data, but I think it's a good trend to see if we can get these people to use the resources we have, they're typically happier.
Yeah, and I think if people are listening or watching to this, the thing they need to take away from this is there's ideas and there's execution, right? And in this case, we thought we had a good idea and we thought we had a good execution plan, and it didn't work, right? And you never know which side of that's wrong or didn't work, right? Yeah. Was it the idea or the execution? And you guys did the right thing. You said, hey, let's take this from another approach and see if we can improve upon this. And I can promise you there's probably even another iteration,
Absolutely.
another iteration, right? And I think when I look at why Diesel Laptops has done well over the last couple of years, it's an exact thing. We've said, hey, we got a thing here, let's try it. And we're usually pretty quick to just throw stuff on the wall and see if it sticks. If it does, great. If not, okay, what didn't work there? And I know we're going through other things in the company in a lot of areas, but it becomes very important because what this means is you now all of a sudden have shops who love us. We provided something that none of our competitors are doing anything even close with. And we know those are the people that end up referring us to people. And I can say, I know people enjoy the products these laptop sells because I think we have a great brand name recognition. I see we have website traffic growing, we have sales growing, all those things. But that's what it leads to. And a lot of that growth we have now it's organic. Yep. It's people that are buying second tools or referring us to people or moving to other companies. But it all starts with the salesperson setting expectations, onboarding the customer right, and making sure they're aware of the resources that are to them. And there's always work that can be done there that ends up benefiting the company in the long run then.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just have to say thank you to the customer support team that we have because they do a tremendous job. I know it's frustrating at times to be in that position because there are some days where all you hear is negative and, how bad you're doing, but they do an awesome job, letting it roll off their shoulders, take the feedback, take it seriously, but, doing that next step of getting with the sales guys and saying, hey, dude, you dropped the ball. We got to fix this, and getting with the managers and saying, guys, let's look at the process. And, I'm really happy because we're not just, pinpointing, ooh, this person said this, and, it's not emotion-based, it's data-based. And I think once you get to that point, you can start seeing failures in your processes. That's when you start to see your organization change. And, we've been through management training, we've been through, how to set up processes that work, how to collect data, and, how to use it. And, from seeing how we operated early on, where it's all emotion, it's all gut feel, it's, ready, shoot, aim, right? But now it's getting teams together, listening to customers, and not just listening to what we think is cool, but getting their voice to matter as well.
Yeah, and you're talking about mentality here. So if you're listening to this again and you have unhappy customers, it's not the customer's fault, it's your fault,
yep.
Right? There's more you can do to have happy customers. You just got to get focused on that side of it, and that's a really hard thing for a lot of businesses to do because they're just so busy working in the business, not on the business. And that's really what you and your team and customer support's doing is like, we're going to get ahead of this in terms of instead of be reactive, we're trying to be proactive. And again, it all those good things. And by the way, I want to go back to the whole, it doesn't do a regen command, right? And it's funny because we have our ironic here, like literally yesterday we had our first handheld returned from Amazon, and the customer's reason, it doesn't work,
yep.
Right? and I guarantee you, the example you made is, hey, it doesn't work, it doesn't do a regen. Well, it could be because you have a mechanical failure and it won't do a regen, or you're locked out and you got to run a derate command first, or there's a communication network problem on your vehicle.
Yeah.
There's 100 things that can go on there. But again, they're not calling, they're not asking, they're just saying this thing's a piece of junk and throwing it across the floor and saying send it back. No, I'm glad what your team's doing, and I think it's important things that any business should do. I don't care if you're in the service business, you're selling products, I don't care what you're doing, you should be constantly asking your customers, how are we doing? Just start there. When I was a service manager, I brought in an outside company to do phone surveys for customers that left the shop. Like the very first week, we found a guy that was really upset. And we called them, and we resolved it, and we brought him back and gave him some other services. And the guy ended up referring a ton of business to us the next couple of years. He goes, I was just never going to even talk to you guys again, but you actually asked me. So I gave the opportunity, and that's the other part people, a lot of business owners and managers don't realize is a lot of those unhappy customers, they don't complain. You just never see them again, right? And that's a hard thing to swallow, and you're putting all this negative stuff out there for your company.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have a similar story, and it's not going to look too good on me, but it's worth sharing. So there was a customer who buys through our eBay channels, and we had a tool for sale that had asked one of the employees, hey, list it for $2,000, right? We need to get this sold. He listed it for $20, and I didn't catch it. At the end of the day, it's my fault, right? I didn't follow up with it. Customer buys it for $20. I end up calling him like, man, listen, I am so sorry. I can't let this go for $20. The guy had already been driving down. He's all upset. He yells at me for about 10 minutes, gets out of his system. I said, dude, look, what happened isn't right. Let's make this right. So, with him, we set up better pricing. We gave him the things he needed to be happy. And now he probably texts me every week, hey bud, saw this online, can't wait to buy that. You guys are doing an awesome job. And I think it was in that call with that customer, it wasn't defensive, it wasn't pointing fingers. It was, hey, listen, I failed, right? I dropped the ball and I'm sorry, right? And I made a mistake, but I'm going to do everything I can to make it up to you. And I think seeing how businesses work now there's no human aspect of it, right? Everyone's a number, everyone's just dollars being sent to you. And I think that's causing a lot of distrust with companies now, where when you buy something, you don't care, right? Or you don't matter to that company. So I think whenever you can talk to a customer and show them that, listen, your voice matters, and we actually care about you, past what you're buying from us. We care about your business. We want this to be a long-term thing. I think people are extremely receptive to that, and I honestly think the best way for businesses our size to keep that business going is to just show people we care and keep providing those resources and just talk to people and listen.
Yeah, well, I'm excited about the diesel onboarding. What's the next steps? I know you said we're kind of finishing up a pilot here. Is it another pilot? Are we going live with everybody? Where are we going next?
Yeah, problem here is scalability. So our customer support team is very small, right? So we have a small subset of customers who need to talk to them. for us to scale this up, we have hundreds of these kits going out every month. We just don't have the bandwidth to actually make these calls. So we're not quite ready yet. What I want to do is, keep a pilot going till the end of the year. Let's take things slow. At that point, I want to tie it back to say, hey, Tyler, listen, with, these 200, 300 customers we've called, not a single one have returned, or if they did, there was a good reason. Every one of them took training. They talked to tech support. Overall, they, called us less because they were better prepared. They could do things on their own. So I need to put numbers behind it, but that's the plan is, keep doing the slow pilot. Let's get some good numbers behind it to back it up, and then go with a presentation to say, hey, here's the bodies I need to scale this thing up.
I need more. I was waiting for the bomb. Like, I need more employees, right? Like, yeah, no, I get it. And at the end of the day, it's got to make sense, right? And all those things. So I'm sure you guys will get here. And I think what you're talking about goes back to a lot of what we learned the last couple of years about strategic planning, right? It's, hey, let's go plan, validate, and then let's go do these things. So we're getting a little bit better at it around here at Diesel Laptops. So I just want to say, Riley, thank you for coming on to the show. It's been awesome to talk about this. I'm excited to see where we go. Anytime we can share a little insight on what we're doing here at a company, I know it applies to a lot of companies that are out there, and hopefully get their minds thinking a little bit on how they could be better with their customers.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Well, no problem. So with that, we're going to call it an episode. And before we sign off here, I want to make sure you guys like, share, comment, leave a review. All those things really help us expand our reach here at Diesel Laptops through this podcast that we do. You can hit us up at thedl@diesellaptops.com. We always love to hear from everybody. We're always looking for guests. We're always looking for topics. Let us know what you guys would like to hear. So with that, we're going to just sign off. We're going to say it's not just diagnostics, it's diagnostics done right. It starts by taking care of your customers. So thank you for watching and listening.